National Development Minister Lawrence Wong gave an update on the people under quarantine in Parliament today.
As of last night, there are 524 persons under quarantine. 222 are in government quarantine facilities and 302 are serving quarantine at home.
Also speaking in Parliament, Health Minister Gan Kim Yong said Singapore has set up multiple lines of defense to reduce the risk of imported cases and local community spread of the coronavirus.
We have been stepping up our posture and efforts at each line of defense. We are not sure how long this virus will turn out. Therefore, we must stand ready to respond to new developments as the situation evolves.
To tell us more, we have news editor Zakir Hussain. Welcome, Zakir. Now, Zakir, Minister Gan Kim Yong outlined a few things in his ministerial statement, now one of which he talked about multiple lines of defense. Could you elaborate on that?
Right. So I think the first line of defense is to prevent the importation of possible cases of the virus. And I think in the past 2 days or so, we've had tighter travel controls to make sure that those with a higher risk are not allowed entry. The second tier is really preparing our healthcare institutions in the event of a surge in cases. And I think the National Centre for Infectious Diseases, as well as at the ground, GPs, the medical infrastructure is in place to deal with cases should they come up. But I think the third line of defense is also interesting, and that's sort of at the social and community level. And I think it's important for people to not overreact, but at the same time to also show consideration. If you're not well, please don't go out or mingle in crowded places, for instance.
Now, the Minister also highlighted the different scenarios of how this could play out.
That's right, yeah. I think the first scenario is that the contagion is actually spills out beyond Wuhan or actually hits other countries in a larger way. And I think the government's not ruled out the possibility of implementing even tougher travel measures. The second one is sort of the one I think many people fear, that there's community spread locally. Now, for the past week and to date, there's not been an indication of that. But it's tough, and I think it's something you have to be prepared for. And I think, if in the event that there's community spread, schools might need to be closed, for instance. Hospitals might need to, divert or turn away non-essential care services. Many mass gatherings, for instance, might have to be cancelled. And I think the third scenario is even more, how would I say, it's more unlikely, but it could still, you can't rule it out. And, if the virus mutates to something more infectious and there's a pandemic, it's something to worry about should that happen.
Now, let's move on to the ministerial statement by Minister Lawrence Wong. He gave an update of those under quarantine. And now he also reminded people to be wary of inaccurate news going around and to focus on the positives. Yeah.
I think that's a real concern because our colleagues have found that, for instance, there are cases of people who may have returned from mainland China, not Wuhan, but returned from mainland China in the past week or so, and they have to take leave of absence from work to avoid possible spread should they fall ill. Some of them have unfortunately been turned out by their landlords. And that's actually, I think the minister called it irrational and irresponsible behavior. That's not helpful. But at the same time, you also have cases of heartwarming stories. For instance, students at NUS, who actually help buy food, help deliver care packages for fellow students who have to be, not so much quarantined, but who have to be quarantined or have to spend leave of absence because they were back in China. So I think these are some of the examples that I think Singaporeans should really try and do more of, rather than react and exacerbate the anxiety there is out there.
Right. So really the focus is to look at the positives, right, of how this crisis has banded the people together.
Yeah, I think
instead of effort to combat the virus.
That's right. Yeah. So I think it's you know, if people need to spend their leave of absence somewhere, you can't expect them to do it out in the streets as well.
Well, thank you so much, Zak, for coming on to the show to tell us more on what has happened in Parliament earlier on. For more on the coronavirus, you can head to straitstimes.com.